everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast, coming to you from SITS in London. I'm Kirsty McGowan. I'm here with Simone Jo Moore.
Hi everyone.
Patrick Bolger.
Hello.
And we're talking to James Finister today.
Hello,
Hey,
Kirsty.
James.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too again, James.
Isn't it
been
always
a long time,
wonderful?
hasn't it? Well, I'm pretty excited because this has been my first SITS, and it's been going for such a long time. And I had this idea of conference in my head versus trade show because I've never really seen it before. So I've walked in here, there's this glorious big room and vendors everywhere, and it's like, do I run now or not?
It's interesting. This is a very hard show to explain to people who've not been here before. I know Pat and I have tried to do that in the past. We're back in Olympia for the first time in, I think, about 10 years.
Yeah.
Last time we were here, it was dark, dingy. The show was crowded.
Yeah.
You went on a vendor stand and you got a vanilla demonstration.
Right.
So much has changed in that time, which I think reflects the fact that the industry has matured in that time. But there's a buzz about the show, and the thing I love is you get people walk through that door, and as you said, they didn't know this was here.
Yeah.
They didn't know there were so many vendors in the marketplace. More to the point, they didn't know the conversations they could have with those vendors.
Right.
And I know Pat sat next to me, but I don't think it matters. I think you could choose any vendor out there.
Yes.
If you go on the stand, you're not just going to get a product demonstration. You're not just going to get somebody saying you have the software. You're going to have somebody having a conversation about the issues you face.
Yeah, they're
in the
actually
service
willing
man-
to share some
They're-
wisdom
they're
about
willing to share
service
that.
management. Yeah.
And that goes back to why I love the
Yes.
show, because you've also got the seminars as well. I think this is a show where people come and can genuinely learn something new
Yeah.
and go away, and their organisation gets the value from them having come here. It should be what people get from every single show. I generally don't think it happens often enough. It does here.
I mean, how many free events are there where you can actually
Yeah,
come and
that's
get
true.
value?
Well, of course, being as I said the other day on one of these, being free means you get infinite value for money,
Swipe
doesn't
left.
it?
Yeah.
Of course, it's free because it's free to the paying punters.
That's right,
It's the vendors who pay for it. Vendors wouldn't be here until they get value. So if vendors come here, and I've exhibited here myself in the past, you do everything you can to provide value. And it is a wonderful marketing opportunity. When you think about it, we're saying it's unusual because it's a conference and an exhibition. Really, in the UK, we don't have a standalone exhibition like this. Everything else is conference-based. And dare I say it, although conferences attract some exceptional speakers from around the world, they don't automatically meet the needs of all the audience out there.
Yeah. I must admit, when I was looking at the program, what I was really pleased to see is that the vendors have their own program of speaking from their stands, of course, but I've seen, they've got these gorgeous little theatres set up. And when they're, as you said, they're not just demonstrating product. Yes, you can do the really technical with that when you've got the questions, but the fact they're actually doing a speaking show and not just demonstrating the product, but talking about case studies, how it's been implemented or what the results have been, which is what I think the people coming here are looking for.
Yeah, they're getting some real life stories from the vendors, not just look at this is what our tool does. They're actually hearing the user stories.
I think actually what I've seen with most of the vendors across the event is they don't get up there and say, this is what our software does.
Yeah.
What they do is they get up there and they basically say, here's some critical issues that you guys are facing today.
Yeah.
This is what our software does to help you tackle those issues. And that's a big difference.
They've finally got the idea that what they need to show is the value that they're providing rather than the technology that they're giving you, saying this is what you're going to get out of it at the end.
And it comes back to what Stephen Mann's often talking about. If you go out and try and source a service desk tool at the moment, and primarily a lot of people here are focused primarily on the service desk by the nature of the show. There isn't a tool out there today in this show which probably isn't going to meet 90% of your requirement. What you're really looking for is a vendor who you can work with, who understands your culture, your
Someone
business.
you can partner with.
Somebody you can partner with, somebody who can tell stories which resonate with you. And again, you only get that by physically meeting people. You don't get it from reading an analyst report. You don't get it by looking on the web at something. You need to come and talk to people. And can I just say something? With, I think, 2 exceptions, we seem to have finally seen the death of the booth babe here.
Yeah, thank
everybody,
goodness, yeah.
you know, the people on the stands generally know their
Yes.
products, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
there as a sales
Yeah, everyone who's
perspective.
on the booth actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Pretty well anyway.
Yeah. Now, if I have a slight criticism of vendors this year, and it's an encouraging criticism, I like to think, they've all been talking to us about innovation,
Yeah.
yet I'm not really seeing something truly innovative which makes me wake up and think they're ahead of the ball game, that they're thinking about where we're going to go next as an industry. I have some strong views on that, as you know. For instance, obviously the rise of service integration and management,
Yeah.
but also the increasing split between the needs of the internal IT department, the very inward-looking department, and the outward business-facing. So we almost have, every organisation almost needs a tool to do a business cycle and a separate but related internal IT.
Which is precisely the topic of my discussion this
Yeah.
morning.
Well,
about-
I wish I'd gone to it. I'm sure it was
Yes,
excellent,
yes.
Patrick.
Indeed. No doubt I'd play it back to you over a beer at some stage.
Absolutely.
Anyway. That's a given.
Yeah.
But no, I think the message throughout most of the vendor booths that you go to is basically the impact of consumerization, what it's actually doing to us, the expectations that it's setting, and actually the fact that consumerization is not about the technology we use, but it's what we're using it for.
Yeah.
And the expectation that's placing on corporate IT. And I positioned it this morning. I said, stop talking about shadow IT. This is legitimate competition.
Yes.
It
Your
is,
customers are
and it is.
making the choice already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to stop them. You may, if you work in a certain type of organization that absolutely prohibits that, different ball game. But if you don't, they're making the choice. Now, if you want to get in a position as a trusted advisor, really you should be advising them in those choices and helping to make them. And that's something I'm hearing from a lot of the vendor booths. So I think they're on message with that.
I mean, when people are going out and buying these services that we're calling shadow IT, they don't think they're buying IT.
No,
They think they're
no.
buying a capability that their business needs. They don't even consider it to be an IT purchase.
And the thing is, actually, they're the people who are absolutely right. And
Yeah.
we in IT need
Yeah.
to work out that
Yeah.
what we're selling them
That's right.
isn't an
Yeah.
IT service,
Yeah,
but is a
it's
business capability. Now, what's perhaps shifted since Patrick and I last had a long chat about this, say 2-3 years ago, very much about BYOD and consumerism as things which might be happening. And we had a very theoretical approach.
Yeah.
It was good theory,
Yes.
but it's theory. The big difference now is people have gone out there and done it. You know, we've got BYOD. You know,
Yeah.
I couldn't work without BYOD
Yeah.
and TCS.
No, you can't.
Consumerization, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
We should now be feeding the real life lessons about what
Yes.
that actually means. And I think if you do talk to people here, you get that split
Yeah.
between those people who've been there and done it and those people who are still talking the theory.
Yeah. Just, I mean, something everyone here, we've all been involved in the Back to ITSM community on Facebook and conversing
Back
through
to
Twitter.
ITSM, BACK, number 2,
Yeah,
ITSM.
ITSM.
Yep. No, we've all, you know, got to know each other basically through these forums,
Yeah.
and we were talking with someone previously about, you know, the idea that what's nice to see is there are a few more practitioners
Yeah.
joining
Lots.
in and actually asking
Lots
questions.
recently. Lots.
And they're actually starting to get a little bit braver now and actually ask questions. Where it's sort of, you know, probably a year or two ago, it was a sort of an elite group of
Yeah.
people who,
And Patrick was on it as well.
Patrick was, and Patrick, But it's been really pleasing to see lately that there have been some new voices popping up
It
and
is
actually
growing.
asking the
It
grassroots
is a growing
questions
community.
that
Yeah.
we want. You know, that was what Back to ITSM was all about, was giving back.
Absolutely, it's interesting as well. I've also spoken to some lurkers here
Yeah,
who have been telling us what value they've been getting from Back to ITSM, which is
Yeah.
quite gratifying. Because you do sometimes think,
Yeah.
is it just us droning on
Yeah.
for each other? To bring back to SITS though, one of my concerns here, and maybe I'm overly sensitive to it, is that people come here who'd really benefit from getting direct access to the knowledge of
Yeah.
people like yourselves.
yeah,
And we need a mechanism to engage them, so when they come through that door
yeah.
and they feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by all those stands,
Yeah.
we have some way of taking them in
almost,
hand,
Yeah.
You're almost having a
guiding
clinic.
them,
Yeah.
maybe passing them from expert to expert to talk about different things. Why that's on my mind at the moment. Last night we had a fabulous networking event, rooftop garden.
Yes, it was great.
Worth coming for.
Yeah.
I met this guy, sat there, standing there, all the goodies, the hornbill bag, who went through exactly that experience we've been talking about. That worried me to some degree, but then he started talking about the fact his company was going through a tool selection and who could he go to for help. And unthinkingly I said, well, of course, you've been going to ITSMF meetings, haven't you? I wasn't expecting him to say, who on earth are the ITSMF? So it's not just about the show not reaching out to people, we're also not reaching out as an industry to these people. And I think we've always suspected that's the case.
Yeah, we did.
But this show gives the evidence.
Who work in the industry who have never heard of this. And it surprises me all the time that it's because, and I think because I've been involved for so many years, I expect that everyone else knows it's there.
Yeah.
But they don't.
But
in all the trainings I do, I always have a slide, which I call my knowledge source slide, if you like. I actually do put mention the Back to ITSM Facebook group, the ITSMF events, or depending on where they are in the world, what they can do. But I was just thinking, I know that we had a little bit of chatter, but I think it was the last minute thing, is that maybe SITS next year has that Back to ITSM corner.
I think we could have a Back to ITSM corner. I think we could have people sign up in advance. Something other conferences do really well. Pink does, for instance, is the conference optimizer.
Yeah.
Where if you're somebody who fits into this category, these are the places to go to, and maybe each stand, maybe each stand, I'm suggesting this to the vendors, has a newbie ambassador or somebody with a talk to me badge.
Kind of like a buddy system in a way.
And again, I think that's another alternative.
Well, one of the things that I would like to see as well, they're probably driven by Back to ITSM, is the young conference thing. We've been talking about that for quite some time. Where basically it becomes a forum where people just almost like you said, a clinic.
A self-forming conference.
I'm really suffering in this area. Who's got some ideas? That hasn't been done yet.
No.
Has it?
Hasn't been done. The other thing really interesting, I was speaking to ITSMF only a few minutes ago. And they've got an event coming up, I think in July on Siam. And they've now made a decision to deliberately try and attract students to that type of event. And I think
BCS.
This is ITSMF, BCS as well. Though BCS has an event on the 18th of June, and they're really keen to get
universities and things like that. That's great.
There's definitely things happening. I mean, it's about time.
Absolutely.
Does it also go to? I'm just thinking about that. We've been talking about education and bringing more people through. Awareness of IT at the business side. So universities, are you also targeting senior high school as well for that?
It's interesting, I mean, that somebody we all know, Barry Corliss from Global Knowledge, has actually set up a ITSM course in conjunction with a local high school.
Okay.
So it's beginning to happen. We've obviously got to put this in the context of STEM training generally in the UK. And I think it comes back to be part of the conversation about women in IT, which has been going on this week. Incidentally, yesterday I had 4 of my team members here, 3 of whom are very, very successful women in IT. They're too much of the exception. So, but I don't want to focus on that purely women in IT. Basically, we don't have a career path for young people which takes them through the challenges commercial IT for the next 10 years to where they become managers. And I think that's absolutely vital for the industry.
Most people who end up in IT service management fell into it by accident because there was at least when we got into it, there was no career path into service management. It you just suddenly discovered that was what you were doing. So it's to actually create that pathway for new entrants into the industry
didn't actually apply for the network manager role, it just became that as the organisation grew.
Now there are some exceptions. This Transport for London, for instance, has been running an IT apprenticeship scheme, which is very interesting. One of the issues with it, I think, is I don't know. Well, I can't speak for Patrick, but I'm not as young as I used to be. And I think the important thing is, if we as the industry experts went out and did something, we would talk about what we think is important. What's vital is this is created by the people who it's going to be used by. So we need to get the younger generation, Generation Y, involved
And I think
developing a solution.
we've got an obligation that we should be doing that. We need to get out. I mean, high schools and their computer science courses, go out there and talk to them and say, look, have you heard of service management? Have you thought about that as an option for you?
That's a really interesting point. But one of the kind of the nicer things that's happened to me over the last little while. We all know Sandra Whittleston.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's now running the ITSM Masters course in Northampton University, and I have had 2 separate masters, people doing the master's course, reach out to me and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this particular article. Yep. So the academic institutions are reaching out to the community and to the industry itself.
Yep.
And actually I've had a couple of people come back to me and say, thank you so much for that, reviewed some of their articles and things like that. And that's a really, really fulfilling thing, especially when they call you and say, hey, I got first. That's a really, really fulfilling thing.
I mean, I don't think organisations always have the ability to do their intake programs. You know, they can't always foster someone that's just come through, and sometimes they might not have enough people, or they don't have the right mentor to train this person through. So I think, you know, the ITSM community, rather than the businesses being involved with the education areas, is going to be where the strength needs to be.
I think you're right, Ben. It's interesting speaking to Matt Burrows about Sophia before coming on air, and how we can use it as a large IT organisation. We're a very large IT organisation. I think 360,000 people last time I had a figure. But you know, we could almost use Sophia to pre-package career paths.
Yes.
Because I think if you leave it to individuals, it's too complex. But if you can start saying to people, look, here is a typical profile, that's much more attractive to them. And of course to HR departments, who, let's be honest, HR departments are inherently lazy.
Hang on, HR designing my service desk analyst job description.
But that's what they're doing. So I'd much rather we as an industry went to HR with a pre-filtered view of Sophia. I think that would be very powerful as well.
Well, I think we could sit here and chat for the next hour or two, but we probably better call a close to this now. And I'm sure we'll get a chance to speak to you again.
I'm absolutely certain you will.
Thanks a lot for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.